Welcome to the Self Seeker channel. Today I have Bronwyn Holm, the founder of Earthfood. Earthfood is a 100% certified organic plant and soil improver powered by living microbes. Welcome, Bronwyn.
Hello, thank you. This is
So,
wonderful. I just love this talking about this with your people. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
thank you. I love your flyer. So tell me, did you create
Yes, this
this
is
amazing banner?
yes. We have. I have a team. We that do all of this. I can't do everything, although sometimes I think I can. Earth Food. So all our socials are Your Earth Food, and our website is yourearthfood.com. So we tried to keep it really simple so that people could remember Your Earth Food. The logo, which we call the device, is actually so it is above as it is below. Green pastures, the soil going right down into the earth. And then you've got the sun, the radiation of the sun, and out into the stratosphere. Because if you don't have the living microbe in the soil and the plankton in the sea, the two of the most tiniest entities on the whole planet, there is no us. They are the glue to this planet and for us. Right now, we have spent the last 80 years systematically going across the globe killing the microbes in the soil. And the UN declared in 2019, they declared that we've only got one generation left of living soil on the whole planet. That's one generation.
What does that mean?
30 years?
So we got 30 years of soil?
Living soil.
Living soil, okay.
Yeah, so living soil is where we have microbes in the soil. And let me tell you what the microbes do. The microbe is a living entity, right? And there's all kinds. There's the fungi and there's a whole range of bacteria. Now, they make tiny nanoholes in the soil and they will make little pathways. I call them the railway tracks. They go down in the little pathways down into the soil. So they restructure the soil. When you have a hot day and a cold night, you've created condensation. You've got dampness in the soil. You didn't have to water it. Mother Nature provided it. Now, when you've got plants, they will put their roots down into those train tracks, which makes it really easy for them to grow. I'm just going to circle up to the leaves. The difference between this and anything else is that, okay, I'll tell you a bit of history. My great-great-grandfather is Eggert Holm. He was the head winemaker at Hermitage Estate Wineries here in Australia. Back in those days, he had a culture that he brought out with him from Denmark, like, if you can imagine, like a kombucha for the soil.
Mm-hmm.
He used to use this and make it, and I think Dalwood back then is one of the estates, and they became internationally famous in the late 1880s when Eggert Holm was doing this. Now, the thing is, you had to use it straight away because microbes die in 36 and 48 hours. So most things that you're seeing now on the shelves and, nursery providing products, you will find that it's not living microbes. It would be microbe enzymes, and there'll always be something else to back the product because the microbes are dead, particularly a powder. So usually it's got something like a kelp tea, or it'll have something that comes from mineral rocks or something like that. It just won't be, because there's nothing going on there unless you add something. And then it's a tonification, it's not a fertilizer. So it makes plants look good, but it does nothing for the roots in the soil. And I will tell you about that. If you want to write it down, write the word insects, and I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay.
So what happened was he had to use the product straight away and get that down. It was alive. Now, microbes don't live in water. They can't be dried out. They won't come out. They will die in the sun. They will die over 45 degrees if they're just left by themselves. They die with chemicals, and they can die in oxygen. These are things designed, and chloride, they're designed to kill microbes. They're designed to kill bugs. Now, I was lucky enough working with a soil scientist who was able to put the microbes asleep. And we have the IP that's around the world to be able to do this. We're the only people who can. And we have tried to make it really commercially confident for farmers, and we've gone down the hard way of doing these trials. So each one of these is a minimum of 2 years by third party, like a university. We're 100% certified organic here in Australia with Southern Cross, and we're also part of the Australian Organic Standard Inputs. We're USDA and OMRI in America. We're EcoCert in Europe, and we have a range of memberships like the International Trade Association. Look, the list is long. But these here, that's about 14 years of trialing.
Wow.
And the money is unimaginable, let me tell you. So this bottle here, because the microbes are asleep in their own juices, their own environments, can last over 10 years.
Wow.
So we say to people, when you have Earthfood, just pop it under your kitchen sink, because they're in a controlled environment and you'll remember to use them. So 1 litre here makes 60 litres of application. So that's also another thing to note. It spreads a long way, like 750 square metres for the bottle if you did a single spray, like a lawn. The thing about these microbes is that they're the same ones for your gut and brain health. So I can tell you, I dare anybody to do this with any other product.
You're going to drink it.
No.
You're going to smell it.
Smell it. Have a smell. You've just got the mycelium vaccae, which is a natural antidepressant.
Oh.
That's part of it. Yes, and it's also got things in it like bifida.
So is it something that you can actually put on food?
In the growing process. So what did your food eat? I keep asking people this because we're not very well educated in how food is made, like the molecular structure. So food is made with whatever it grows within. So if it's growing in synthetic fertilizer, the chemicals are embedded in the DNA and the food. You're eating that. If it's growing in manures and chicken manures, well, then you're eating nanoparasites. If you have growing it in a living microbe, you're eating that, and it's like a probiotic for your gut and brain. And I just breathed it in. So that was my brain getting some extra little boost along. But the thing is that there are no living microbes out there, as I just explained, with the UN's declared this. So the farming land, the farmers are struggling growing good quality food these days. And I actually am starting to see that the people who are advising farmers are bought and paid for. I've seen this myself. I've also seen that the chemicals and the substances that they use kills microbes. So you're not actually getting the nutrient dense food. What you're getting is a food that is a biomass, and I don't know about you, but I know so many people hanging off the fridge door at 9:30 at night because they're mouth hungry, they want something to eat, they don't know what they want, and that's nutrition that's missing. If you grow, vegans love this because it's not made with manure. So if you're growing food with this, you get nutrient dense food and you don't have to eat as much. So an example of this is putting food. I'm just trying to get my words together here. You probably need to edit this out. So growing food in living microbes, that makes highly dense food full of nutrition. Now, Helen McCloskey, who's from Carbonate, and sometimes she's been on Landline on the ABC. She has actually had an experiment comparing the nutrient density of carrots. A carrot grown in a live microbe and a carrot and carrots grown in synthetic fertilizers. She says 10,000 carrots equates to 1 carrot in the living microbes. So that's a snapshot. They say now, you've heard this. You've heard of nutritionists saying there's actually no vitamin C's in the oranges anymore, and the way that apples are growing, and they've got anti-mold on them, and they're sprayed 5 times in the growing cycles with pesticides. And at the end, they're picked, they're washed, they're thrown into an anti-mold, and then it's covered over with a wax, and it's in a refrigeration for 2 years. And that's just here, west of here.
Wow.
So we know this. We also know that food that is, farmers are under huge pressure right now to be able to grow perfect looking food. The problem is it's getting so hard to grow food now. We're actually looking at a food shortage coming very fast because the soil is so sick and damaged. What my great-great-grandfather used to say, it's not what above the ground that counts, it's below the ground that counts. And the soil being so sick is making food difficult to grow. I have farmers phoning me up at midnight, in tears, suicidal. They don't know what to do. They pay agronomists, and these agronomists charge more money than high-paid lawyers. And, they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of these IBCs down in the shed. Nothing's working. There are people out there educating in permaculture. Well, that's all fine and good, but you can't do 100-acre farm on that. It's just like, it's just too, and it's hard work. I think Rachel Ward, the famous Australian actress here, on her farm recently, she's just tried to turn it from a conventional farm through to a permaculture farm, I believe. And it took her so much time, so much effort, so much money, and hard labour. And you know what? I wished I'd known. I would have just gone down and say, here's a 20-litre cube of Earthfood, spray it on there, and it'll all be done. Mother Nature is so good, whether it's Mother Nature, God, Buddha, whatever your higher self attunes to, is so generous to us. Everything we ever need has been provided for our survivability, care, and so that food can be your medicine. This is when you have food as your medicine. That's what I'm about. I'm about helping humanity come back from being sick and tired. We're so sick and tired because we've been microdosed glyphosate every single day. We're eating food with no living microbes in it, and it is a poison. Looks like food, tastes like food, it's actually poison. We're looking at, growing food or looks like food and it turns up in a box and a bottle along with everything else that does us no good. And what I'm trying to say is we've got to start practicing growing food. We must start. A lot of people don't know how.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know how to harvest a seed. When I was growing up, I'm a child from the Lockyer Valley, Brisbane and Lockyer Valley. Everybody grew something in something. So, you know, an example would be my grandparents would grow food in a cup, in a Milo tin, in a concrete wash basin, in an old-fashioned tin dunny can, because they were tinsmiths as well. So that's we grew up with that. You know, we had rosellas, we had these are the food of the 40s and the 50s, rosellas and chocos and tomatoes, and there'll be lettuces and a variety of pumpkins and potatoes, and everybody was able to get honey. There was honey everywhere. We can't do that now with bush lemons. That's right. That's something everyone, you don't see bush lemons anymore. I've been trying to say to people, we've actually got to go back to taking our health and our sovereignty back. We've got to start looking at what can I grow. Now, I hear so many people say, I can't grow a thing. Anything I touch dies. Do you know what? It's not your fault. What people believe that they don't know how to grow. No, it's just that everything that's coming that you're using is designed to kill. It's the big ag product cartel's way of creating a repeat business model, and you're part of the circuit. This is because everything is designed to die. You buy a seedling, you buy your potting mix, you buy your special range of chemicals, even the organic ones, and I'll explain all of that. Let's look at potting mix. Potting mix is pulverized debris boosted up as a medium. It's a medium boosted up with NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, and a variety of those chemicals. Now, what you've got to understand, it's all about money. The faster the plant grows from the seed, the faster it can be put into the process. So they force feed that plant the chemicals. The plant responds by growing fast. As I say, remember, tonification makes plants look pretty, but it does nothing for the roots, and the soil is nothing that's going to happen in there. So you will go along and say, oh, look, I'm going to grow, what do you want to grow? Tomatoes and cucumbers? All right. Yeah. So you've got your little punnets, you go to the checkout. What you don't realise, the journey that plant's been on, it's been forced fed, it's been without water, without sunlight, it's been transported from wherever the nursery is that creates this to a distribution centre, and that could be like the other side of Australia, and then that plant is then put in a warehouse in darkness or artificial light. In other words, no photosynthesis is going on, and then that plant will be then put on another journey as a distribution to the distribution channel that goes out to all of the outlets that sell plants, right? By the time you get it, the immunity is low because it's forced and starved and all sorts of things. It has no nutrient in it. The roots are thin and spindly. Have you ever popped them out of those things and looked at this little tiny fine hairs? There's nothing there. That's a clue. Then you decide, oh, okay, I'm going to grow them in the ground. Well, what's in your ground? Is it dry? Is it compacted? Is it hard? And you get the fork and the spade and you dig around and you put water in it, and then you notice that you're watering and you've got the first inch or two that's got water in it, and underneath that bone dry. You've got dead dirt. And you're going to put that weak plant in that dead dirt. And oh, by the way, and you look along the shelf and you'll say, oh, because I'm growing tomatoes, I'm going to get that product there because that's for tomatoes. Oh, yes, and my citrus tree needs that, and my African violets need that, and my lawn needs this. All you've done is buy a bunch of poisons.
Wow.
For your plant. And it's poison because do you know there is I'm sorry I don't have the stat, but there is an escalation in cat and dogs dying of tumours in the last 30 years because they're walking on these things or playing around plants that have them, and then they come inside and they lick their paws, or it's, and
Oh, right.
that's how they ingest.
Wow.
And if they're getting sick, imagine what's happening to us.
And we might be eating that.
We are
What is
eating it.
produced from that?
So now, where else can I take this? So the soil, well, it's a medium. So if you're growing it in the ground, it's not going to survive. You will not be able to, lucky if it does. And if it does, it's chemically supported. Now, if you're growing in pot, I am a pot grower because I follow the sun, and with all the strange ways the weather's going, if it rains too much, at least I can pull them in under cover because I think there's a lot of things going on where we have way too much water. I can't remember. I'm living in sunny Queensland, southeast Queensland. I can't remember the last clear blue fine day. I think it's been months and months, and the plants are suffering, right? You'll notice that all this extra rain, like for example, growing beans, they don't like wet feet. And what do they got? Wet feet. You've got lettuces that have this burning sun, and for those of you who know that in the Queensland government website, and I think it doesn't matter which website you go to, you will see there is a section there called cloud seeding for the weather control. And the cloud seeding, if you go into deeper research on that section, you can go right down to exactly the 197 things they're spraying on everything. One of them is aluminium powder. Now, aluminium powder is like a magnifying glass of laser beaming sun down so strongly it almost is biting. I've had plants that have got so severely sunburnt that should never be sunburnt. Mm-hmm. And even myself, I've been outside of just just watering the garden or something, and the burning, the stinging, it's like somebody's literally putting something strong, and plants are suffering. I have beach umbrellas all over on those kinds of days because it's burning sun. It's not bright sun. And I move my pots around. Anyway, if I'm growing in pots, I'm using potting mix, the same again. It's pulverized debris. And often when you open up a big 50-litre bag or a 25-litre bag, you'll notice there's things that come out of it, gnats, full of gnat larvae. That's not helpful for your thin, spindly seedling roots. However, Mother Nature, in her wisdom, has given us these living microbes. They can clean up the soil, they can clean up the chemicals and the toxins, they clean the chemicals off your food that come from above and from below. They make the soil moist, cool to touch, sweet to smell. That's good soil. They can rehab potting mix over a period of time. They can make your roots of your plants thick, dense and strong. Having thick, dense and strong roots means that they're making sugar. The microbes eat the sugar, and in a symbiotic relationship, they will unlock all the nutrient already in there. Mother Nature has provided everything. We just need to get out of the way so she can perform magnificently, unlocking the nutrients in the soil. We're breathing 78% nitrogen. We don't breathe solid oxygen. We breathe nitrogen mostly. The microbes will come up to the surface, take the nitrogen and the carbon and bring it down and lock it into the soil. That's what the plants want. They do the photosynthesis. What I do is I take this bottle, and we do have things for farmers, 20 litre cubes and 1,000 litre IBCs. Now I just squeeze the bottle in the belly, right? And squeezing it, you can see there, right? That's just squeezing. Now that's 20 ml. I can put that in a spray bottle, a 1 litre bottle spray. That's about 40 cents right there. And that will do all the plants in the back of the studio here. Wow. All of your plants. Wow. Now, it goes a long way. But the point is, what I do is when I have my spray bottle, you can do watering cans, but you don't have control on how much you water out. So it's easier and economical and more controlling just to use the spray. And I just literally just spray the leaves, just like my hand's doing that. Mm-hmm. That's it. My gardening's done.
Wow.
And I can explain. The microbes will go through the leaves. And the leaves, these leaves, they have a molecular structure. If you put this under a microscope, you can see a healthy leaf will look hexagon, like the beehive, a repeat pattern that Mother Nature does. If it's sick, it'll look oblong. Now, when you've got oblong cells, the insects will be there because that's a sick and dying plant. If I knocked you off tonight, I put you out in the yard, you'd be covered in insects by the morning. That's Mother Nature. She's cleaning stuff up. I talk to gardening clubs all over. I do conferences. I have a keynote speaker in the Hemp and Regenerative Agricultural conferences and international conferences on food as your medicine. And people are dumbfounded. What they say is, you can see the eyes like, oh my gosh, I have insects everywhere. I have grasshoppers. I have lawn grubs. I have diseases all over my food, and my lettuces are all lying down flat on the ground. And one of the reasons why there was a hemp conference is people are waking up, farmers are waking up because the crop's lying down flat. There's no structure or perk because they don't have any trace minerals and selenium. Microbes are the only entities on the planet that make trace minerals and selenium. They make the structure and the perkiness. You'll have lettuce that stand up to attention. I kid you not. Wow. You'll have tomato vines that are solid, not just like so many are. But you know what? The number one thing why people are sick and tired on this planet right now, we're eating food that has no trace minerals and selenium. They are the foundation of all our health. That's why we're so sick.
So I'm just curious, what brought you to this and all the products you're interested in creating? Why are you doing this?
I've always known about earth food for the earth. I've always known, it's been in my family. It's been, all around me. My grandfather on my mother's side, he's like a Johnny Appleseed. He would harvest his own seeds and then he'd walk along the Fernvale River and the Brisbane River and up around Somerset Dam, and he'd have a pocket full of seeds and he'd be walking along and just popping in seeds everywhere, come back in a little while, harvest, and of course he had a shop to sell these things in the main street in Esk. Now, that's on that side, and on the Brisbane Valley and in the Lockyer Valley, that's all another story. So my great-grandmother, whose married name was Giesman, she built Laidley. So she had 13 kids, and each one of them had a property basically in the main streets. And she put the pub there on the corner, the really old pub on the corner. Each one of those kids had an occupation, so they were working. They owned the shops downstairs, and their residence were above the shops. Every one of them had a plot in the backyard, and the plot. And my great grandmother Annie Holm, I've got a postcard with her her writing done in like ink and calligraphy pen, or whatever. I don't know what they used, but they didn't have biros in those days. And she said, I must attend my plot. And it was like a constant thought. They had to grow food. You just didn't go down to the corner to the IGA and pick up a packet of things or a bottle or something. You had to create everything. And my family were well known in the area. In fact, the Laidley Cemetery is pretty well run. It's all by my family, like there was 13 kids, and they all probably, they've got like large families, and then they all, it's tombstones there with the names all over it. So it goes back a way. But the thing is, I've been a pot grower as long as I can remember. I was 12 years old, and I would have a windowsill, a bookcase on my window. It'd be covered in plants. I just love plants. I had no particular reason. I just love them. And even today, if I go to a cafe or somewhere and I see plants not being looked after, I actually hurt. I feel their pain, and because I know too much about them. So my personal history, as I did start my career at the Smithsonian Institute, National Geographic in Washington, D.C. And I came back and I was creative director of National Parks and Wildlife Service. I'm a 40-year natural history educator, corporate communications, corporate graphics, and I worked with some of the top scientists and filmmakers here in Australia. Some of them are the best of the best in the world. Professor Cole Limpus on turtle research. Well, I worked with him because I'm an illustrator and an artist as well. I was sent by national parks to all the different national parks to do illustrations for all their visual communications, like brochures and signage and that sort of thing. And all this time, I've got wonderful relationships with Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority scientists. Now, that's another story. I'll tell you about the reef sometime. You should make notes, because I could talk the leg off an iron pot and all these things. Okay. The scientists were telling me in my 20s that if we didn't change the way we were doing things, we were reaching a point where we may not come back. And that was in my 20s. Well, I'm 64 now. So we've gone past that, and we're really pushing it. I got hold of a book written in the 1940s. His name was Voisin, and he wrote this book. It's called Grass, Soil and Cancer, and he was the canary in the mine. He wrote this book because Monsanto took the rights to make fertilizer from the bomb materials, the leftover bomb materials from World War I.
Wow.
That's what fertilizer is.
Right.
Right. So when you've got terrorists and things like that, first thing they do is look in the garage for fertilizers.
Yeah.
Because that's how you make bombs.
Wow.
It's the founding ingredients.
I see.
Yeah. And since then, he observed. So from the end of World War I, he observed that having these chemicals sprayed on grasses and so on, because that's, we want to improve crops back in those days. And this was the beginning of large crops, because the population was expanding quite significantly. And he found that soil that grew grass that animals ate, he discovered has a higher proportion of cancer-forming components in the meat for the consumers and for the animals. And he wrote this book. It was published once and never seen again. I actually tried to find it, and I think there was a highlighted version, like a concise highlights, photocopied, and
Right.
it was sold on Amazon for $1,800.
Wow.
And then I found an old friend of mine who deals in antique books, and I said, "Can you find this?" I'm thinking it might be in the book in some library in down in the dark dungeons or in the UK or some weird, place. And this man's in France, and I thought maybe there's something in France. He found it in our local library,
Wow.
the only copy. And I've had it in my possession, and I keep renewing the membership because I'm actually writing a whole paper on it.
Wow.
Yeah. And because what he was saying back then was a warning in the 1940s, and he was shut down. Yeah. So, yeah, there's lots of those people out there. Yeah, so the insects, let's go back to that. The insects, we are in plague proportions right now with grasshoppers, lawn grubs, and the sicknesses of the diseases of the plants, and gall wasps on your citrus trees. And I see many times on social media on these plant growing platforms, and they'll say, I have photos, can someone tell me what's going wrong with my XYZ? And I'm thinking, I say the same thing over and over, but I feel that people just don't get it, because the big ag product cartels have done an amazing job of the narrative, the salesmanship, the marketing, the gorgeous photography, and now they're teaching people how to grow in these webinars, and so easy to be, in my opinion, I think that we're all being hoodwinked, because you go into everyone's garage and you'll find some salty solution in there, which is 100% nothingness. It's 97% water, 3% seaweed and fish head tea, which comes from China. And that's just a very poor excuse for a tonifier now. We have here products that are, oh, you need minerals, or you need this, or why don't you need worm juice? Okay, let's look at worm juice. Well, worm juice is kind of important. It is high nitrogen. The thing that microbes don't like is high nitrogen. They like little nitrogen, but what does Big Ag say? You need more nitrogen, because while you've got more nitrogen, you've got sick plants and sick soil. So then you need more. So if I give you a steroid and you're going to go to the gym, you're going to look amazing. And then you'll need more next year, and you'll need more the following year, because your body gets used to it, and it goes on and on and on. And you're going to die young because your body can't tolerate it. And it's the same with plants. Plants you've had for 3 months, all of a sudden, will die young.
So what products are you selling? Like, what could you tell
Okay,
us
so this
about
is
them?
Earthfood Live. These are the live microbes. And then I'm really against this microdosing of glyphosate in our diet, every single thing we eat. So most people will have some grain somewhere during the day. You'll have toast for breakfast, or an oats, or something out of a box called corn something, bread, pastries. These things are the things that are microdosing the glyphosate, and glyphosate is quite a dangerous drug in our nervous system. There's 1 in 10,000 people, children in America, and that's the only stat that I've got, is only just a few decades ago we're receiving got autism. Now it's 1 in 34, and the research is coming down to glyphosate poisoning.
Wow.
My father is he's actually he's got Parkinson's and it's glyphosate poisoning. And I think about his diet. I think about him all the time because, you know, he may not be here this Christmas. But the point of the matter is, he was a world champion athlete. He was a kayaker, and he was marathons and sprints. He's been acknowledged in world masters. People in the kayak industry will know Errol Holm. Now, I remembered he used to have oats before he went to bed, oats with Greek yogurt and honey. And that was his carbing up for his race the next day. He'd have that every night. He would have Weet-Bix, carbs for breakfast. And he would always have some 10-grained bread and like a big sandwich with lots of protein and greens, and smack it together, and he'd eat that for lunch religiously, And of course he loved his sweets. His mother was a great sweet maker, so there was always a dessert, and it was always something like rice pudding, or rice is one of the highest levels of glyphosate right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's another subject I can open up, another can of worms. I'll tell you what's happened in Thailand rice and Indian rice. There's some serious things. Yeah. So he would have rice pudding. He would have, fruit cake. There would be always some kind of sultana cake. There was always some kind of pie, apple pie, and ice cream, that kind of thing. He loved his sweets. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, nearly everything he ate had glyphosate in it. And, yeah, that's just how it is.
So how do you avoid glyphosate?
Well, it comes in your grains. You have to really try and find organic grains. What I do with people is, what I have here is, I have Earthfood Maintains, the 5-litre concentrate. This is glyphosate-free pine oil, which is hand tapped. And this actually is for farmers who've got more acreage and that sort of thing. The little one here, this is a ready to use, for those people who just love to have that perfect driveway, or around the swimming pool. But I actually didn't bring this to market for beauty. I brought this to market for preservation. So in Australia, we have 197 pesky vines in the landscape, strangling our native landscape. And if you've ever been to a coast like down the east coast of Australia, you'll see masses of morning glory and cat's claw all over these trees, so much they're like these big green ghosts, and the trees are falling over, they're being strangled alive. And these are our natural trees for our flora and fauna. So our birds, our pollinators, need to have that bottle brush, or the wattle, or a particular level of the koalas need a certain kind of tree. A Eucalyptus poplarnea, for example, is the one that they eat those leaves. Well, those trees are covered in cat's claw and morning glory and asparagus fern. These are insidious. They've big thorns on them and tubular clusters that go everywhere. So this is why we brought this product to the market. We have to start waking up, folks. I'm sorry to say, we're at the pointy end of the stick here, and we must start paying attention to our environment. I'm not going to bang on about it, but we have unconsciously been hoodwinked with what products we are putting in the soil. What we all have to do as living occupants on this planet. We have been blessed. Where we go, we're on a square meter of earth. We have been blessed to be here. The fact that you've even been born is a miracle. And here we are in one of God's own best countries, Australia. And I can tell you that we all owe it to Mother Nature to put these microbes back in the soil. And the only way I can do it is with this, because I can't make a tea for you and give it to you in 36 hours. But you can get this because this will last 10 years. That's not the goal. If you've got one of these and you bought it and it's 10 years in, you need a, you know, that's not right. You need to put them in the ground. So how these work is when they're asleep now, they're mixed with water, and that's what's wake them up. Think of water as a vehicle, like the big bus. The microbes go in the bus and the bus takes them home to their destination. That is to a cellulose cell in the plant or in a molecule of soil or a particle of soil. That's their home. And when they get in there, there is billions upon billions in a teaspoon, and they reproduce. Now, I've got to tell you, when you get that growing, you don't get worms in your lawn, grubs in your lawn, because the roots become dense, thick and strong. There's nowhere for grubs to be. The only reason why you've got grubs, you've got thin roots. And it's the same if you've got plants, your other plants growing. When the seeds are dropping from a bird or an explosion from a tree to regrow, the roots are dense, thick and strong. The seed comes to the ground. They can't take root and grow. There's no room. So you don't get the weeds. You don't get the sicknesses. You don't get the diseases. Remember I told you the molecular structure. The insects can discern.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need herbicides. You don't need pesticides. And if for whatever reason you do, you give me a call and I'll give you something from your kitchen cupboard that you can make yourself and do 3 sprays and it's over. You can repair it yourself.
So I briefly remember you mentioning that when the soil is unwell or doesn't have the best nutrients or isn't in the best of health, you can have other kinds of weeds and plants growing, and that can almost tell you that there's a problem with the soil.
Oh yeah. You'll tell by your plants. Plants just don't look good.
Mm-hmm.
The plants don't look perky. They kind of look like they're lying on a lounge.
Mm-hmm.
They can not be a vibrant yellow. So I can tell you, if you compared Earthfood in one section of your garden and you had anything else, I don't care what you use, whatever your method is, use it. Keep something aside for Earthfood. Just put Earthfood on that row or in those pots or those seedlings or whatever you're growing. I have seen miracles upon miracles, and people call me all the time. I have big Earthfood stories emailed to me all the time. Microgreens. You can harvest between 3 and 5 days. Normally it's 10 to 14 days.
3 to 5 days.
I know. I have a farmer who just does microgreens, and he sells that down in the Macquarie. He's in Tamworth and he sells them down at Macquarie and all those regions, all the health food shops. He's tripled his income because in that same 14 days he's already done 2 other crops.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I know for a fact that there's a farmer who's a corn grower, and I have it on my phone. I really should show you sometime. And he says, I can't believe I'm getting 7 heads per stalk in my plot.
Wow.
He's never seen that before. And he's a corn. That's his thing, his specialty.
Right.
And I said, get out of the way. Let Mother Nature do her thing. You save 70% of water when you've got microbes in the soil.
Really?
Yeah, because it absorbs water. So we don't get floods. You wouldn't get as many floods if we all had microbes in there because the water is absorbed into the ground. We have floods because it's compacted soil. It hits the top and it runs down.
Oh, right.
It's compacted because we have blazing sun and there's nothing there holding it together. It dries out and it's dust. We have Australian dust all flowing over topsoil into New Zealand. The Moroccan soil is in French swimming pools. We've been asleep at the wheel. This is not right. We've got an atonement to make to Mother Nature. As a humanity, we have to stop. We have to atone for our sins. I mean it. There's not going to be a future left.
Well, on that note, what is your vision for the future? What would you like to see?
I would like to see everybody put microbes back in the soil and to tell everyone, to tell everyone, to tell everyone about the earth food love. Share the love. We've got to make the difference. And to me, it's not about sales, it's about education. And if I did one thing, if I got one person out there that switched their brain on this topic who gets it and they want to talk about it, come and see me. Like, be a speaker, be a person who can tell people about this. That I'm 64. I'm not going to be here forever, and we need to get this message out there. I was on a radio show in the UK only 2 nights ago. I said the same thing. If you know a distributor, you know a shop, you know a farmer, you actually want to do this yourself. Tell everyone to tell everyone to tell everyone. We are, our backs are against the wall and there's only me. I can't do everything. So that's why I'm really grateful for having this time with you and you. I really appreciate your time because there is so much to this story. I could be here. I could tell you all the sins that you would be amazed about, but I think your program might be kicked off the YouTube if I go too deep. But that's another topic, and maybe you have your subscribers and your memberships, and maybe we'll just do a special thing for those people. So if you're not signed up on his subscriptions and his memberships, you're missing out on some really hot stuff, because I know that if I open some of those cans of worms, they might shut this down. And I've got so many. I've got heaps. Absolutely heaps. I'm a natural born researcher, and I've uncovered some pretty serious stuff. I've even found whistleblowers. I've found all sorts of things. And yeah.
And do you think people need to know this at this point in time?
Bloody oath. Oh, damn, do. Absolutely. I can't see how we... Here's the thing. I'm just recently on the ABC News, I think it was about 3 mornings ago. The topic was, we are boiling, our weather is boiling hot, and the heat is killing the reef. No, it's not. I know. I actually talked to the scientists who write papers whose papers are not allowed to be published.
I see.
Yeah. Let me tell you what really happens. The sugarcane farmers go all down the east coast of Australia. They go all around the rim of Okinawa, of Fiji. Wherever sugarcane's growing, it's always on the edges of coastlines. Mostly. You don't see it in the middle of a country, usually, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, what is the number one products that are being used on a sugarcane farm?
I wouldn't know.
High levels of NPK.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're doing that, you're going to have compacted soil. Most of those places that grow sugarcane have high rainfalls, big rainfalls. Like, down the north coast of Queensland, you've got the Queensland downpour. It's typical. Downpour hits the hard rock, the compacted soil. Nitrogen doesn't get absorbed into the soil. It stays in the top 200 mils. Well, guess what? That just gets washed away down to the waterways, into the creeks and the rivers nearby, out into the reef. It's the nitrogen that's killing the reef.
Oh, wow.
Bleaching them. Do you know what? I have a scientist who wrote a paper about the living microbe is the healing agent for reef. Mother Nature repairing, cleaning up after us one more time.
Wow.
Anyway, I can talk about that too. I don't want to get you off YouTube.
So, how can I and my community support you?
Get the microbes. If there's anybody out there that wants to assist in getting us into retail, wholesale. You know, the more volume we have out there, the better it is. We need to get every metre of soil active. Here's just to let you know something. If I did my metre and you did your metre and you did your metre out there, sooner or later that connects with the mycelium network, and the mother tree will talk to the other trees and they'll look after the other trees. And by the way, if you're a pot owner, you're the mother tree, so you still need to do this. This has a frequency, for those of you who are interested, it has a frequency of 7 to 12 hertz. That's the same as a crystal. So if you've sprayed this on your lawn, or you're part of the mycelium network that has this, you've actually created a place that can reset your nervous system in 20 minutes.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
It's called grounding, but you're dealing with microbes. Now, those of you who understand what electroculture is, it's taking static electricity from the air down a copper wire into the soil. Now, it's very hard for that to work if you don't have live microbes. Some people say, oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work if you don't have live microbes. You have living microbes in there, and it's like feeding kids Mars bars. They go off their tree. They have a party, and they're just working it. So with living microbes, you will get 40% more protein in above ground greens. You'll get 40% more protein in your blade of grass if you've got cattle. You've got 40% more yield in your crop, 40% more growth, 40% more bigger size in flower. You know, like I'm growing figs off a branch. The branch is this high. That's all it is. And I feed off that. I've had 4 harvests of that this season. There is a documentary on our homepage, yourearthfood.com, with Adam Jones, or Farmer Jones, as some of you might know. And it's really worth looking at because he explains perfectly fine what it's like to take farm from conventional farming to biological botanical growing. And that's what I teach. I teach that. I teach people how to have your best food, because it's your medicine for your best health. If you're sick and tired and you're not eating well, it's very hard to fight what you want in life. It's too hard. But all of a sudden, if you get all the nutriments that you need naturally, not out of a bottle, naturally, all of a sudden, you've got zest. You've got passion. You've got power. You can think clearly. You can make better decisions. You can learn to say no. You know, you can do things. It's very hard if you're sick and tired.
Yes.
You live a life of resignation. Why are we living a life of resignation with so much to do? It's not for us. Oh my gosh, I'll be dead in a box by then. It's for the kids and the grandkids. You know, we are seriously needing to make some changes. And that's what I'm standing for. I'm standing for that. I'm standing because we have to have the living microbe in the soil and the plankton in the sea.
Thank you for all the work that you do and all the knowledge and the wisdom that you're sharing with us today. I'm so excited that you're going to be part of Using Plants as Medicine conference, and I think we need to talk about this, and we need to get people to understand why their plants are in the condition or the shape that they're at. So you have a spot with us on Monday, the 25th of March.
I do.
And people can come and speak to you in person. You're going to have a stall.
Oh, yes. So if people do come to the conference, and bring your plant problems with you, I will do a free consultation on behalf of the conference organisers. I will also be able to assist you with any growing issues. If you're thinking of starting a garden, what is the best way to do it? If you are wanting the best organic, lush, abundant food source for yourself, I can talk to you about it. I can tell you how to grow enough food to feed a family of 4, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. and it's not hard. It's like 4 meters by 4 meters, and that's it. That's actually, you know, you can just make those garden beds, and I'll tell you how to do it. I'm there. I'm only there on Monday because I'm totally booked out. That was the only day I could fit in. So please make sure if you're interested, come along. It's over at North Lakes in Brisbane, and yeah, I think you'll. I think you're going to really enjoy it. There's some really cool speakers. I'm learning new things too. Some pretty cool people there. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for listening to my very long talk. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Bronwyn, and I look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Okay. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Bye. This is about a spirituality. This is putting the microbes back in the soil, living. These are living microbes back into the soil, and they spread the mycelial network right under our feet. This is important. This is raising the frequency of the planet.